Luis, be honest. Have you ever felt like a completely different person when you speak English? Like your true personality is trapped behind a wall?
Every single day, Leo. It's like being a giant trying to fit into a tiny, simplified box.
Today, we're breaking that wall. We're diving into the psychology of the C1 plateau and why sounding native might actually be the very thing stopping your progress.
It's time to stop performing and start inhabiting your English. Let's get into it.
Let's start the episode. So, let's pick up on that feeling. I've noticed that when I switch from Spanish to English, I become more concise, almost clinical. It's fascinating, but also a bit unsettling. Does that happen to you?
It's a scientific reality, Leo. In linguistics, we call this cultural frame shifting. Language isn't just a tool, it's a psychological container. When you speak English, your brain rewires itself for low-context logic, which is all about directness. In Spanish, we enjoy the journey of the sentence. In English, we just want to arrive at the destination.
So that's why people think English speakers are cold, when they're actually just efficient. But here's the problem. Many B2 listeners feel trapped. They reach the C1 plateau. They can say everything they need, but they can't say everything they are.
Exactly. You feel functional, but you lack agency. Agency is the power to express your specific brand of humor and your professional authority. At B2, you are a prisoner of the words you know. At C1, you use the words you want. There's a massive ego gap between saying, "I agree," and saying, "I'm inclined to concur, though I have some slight reservations."
But wait, Luis. If I start saying inclined to concur in a casual meeting, won't I sound like a textbook robot? Isn't there a risk of losing my authenticity by trying to be too sophisticated?
That's the C1 paradox. The goal isn't to sound fancy, it's to have lexical precision. When you find the exact word for your thought, the character you're playing merges with your real self. You stop translating and start inhabiting.
All right, let's do today's mystery quiz. According to a University of Connecticut study, which personality trait typically increases when a person switches to English? A. Agreeableness. B. Extroversion. C. Conscientiousness.
English is so tied to work and structure. So I'll go with C, conscientiousness. But I want the why later.
We'll check that later. By the way, if you felt that ego gap in your own life, hit the subscribe button. We're building a community for speakers who want to bridge that gap.
We want to hear from you. Leave a comment below. Who are you in English? Are you more serious? More direct? We read every single one.
Now, let's talk about the linguistic identity crisis. I see students spending thousands on accent reduction. They want to sound like they were born in London. Is that the true mark of a C1 speaker?
Honestly? No. Obsessing over accent is a red herring, a total distraction. What truly defines C1 isn't the sound of the vowels, but your prosody and intelligibility.
Prosody?
Yes. The rhythm, the stress, and the musicality. You can have a thick accent, but if your prosody is correct and your precision is high, you will command more respect than someone with a perfect accent who uses basic B1 vocabulary.
Quick break. If you're finding this deep dive helpful, do us a huge favor. Hit that like button and subscribe to join our global community of advanced learners. It's the best way to keep sharpening your listening skills with us. And don't forget, your study guide PDF is waiting for you in the description. It's packed with the exact tools you need to move from learning English to owning it. All right, let's get back to the conversation. Welcome back. We're discussing how to move the needle from B2 to C1. Luis, you mentioned that the plateau is more of a psychological problem.
It is. In your native language, you are a high-resolution person, witty, sharp, and complex. In English, at B2, you feel low resolution. That frustration of being simplified is what makes people give up.
It's like being a world-class pianist but only having a toy piano to play on. So, how do we get the full grand piano?
You have to stop learning English and start deconstructing it through active observation. Most people watch Netflix to relax. A C1 aspirant watches to analyze register shifts.
Register shifts?
They notice how a character speaks to their lawyer versus how they speak to their bartender. They look for chunks, groups of words that carry social meaning.
But doesn't that mimesis, imitating social behaviors, make us feel like we're losing our identity even more?
Not if you practice linguistic self-acceptance. This is the secret weapon. It's the moment you say, I have a Spanish soul, but a C1 vocabulary. You aren't trying to be British. You are expanding your identity to include English. You become a global citizen.
So the goal is international English, not perfection.
Exactly. And that requires pragmatic competence, knowing when to say what. A C1 speaker has the linguistic range to be a social chameleon, adjusting their identity to the room they are in.
If you're enjoying this deep dive, give us a thumbs up. It helps other learners find their way out of that simplified version of themselves.
When you stop fighting the language and start dancing with it, plateau simply disappears. You realize there was no ceiling. You just needed more room to breathe.
Before we finish, let's go over today's mystery quiz. You chose conscientiousness, Luis.
Yes, and I'm curious about the why.
The theory is that because we often learn English in formal, goal-oriented environments, our brains create a neural link between English and discipline. When you switch to English, you automatically go into professional mode, becoming more organized and careful.
That is incredibly empowering. It means English doesn't make us less. It gives us a new set of strengths.
Let's recap the C1 Identity Toolkit from today. We started with cultural frame shifting and the idea of language as a psychological container.
We explored agency, the power to express your true intent, and why a red herring like accent shouldn't distract you from prosody.
We also mentioned active observation and register shifts as tools to break the plateau.
And finally, linguistic self-acceptance and pragmatic competence, the keys to becoming a social chameleon.
This is your path to C1 mastery. Don't fear the personality shift. Embrace it. Download the study guide PDF in the description to practice these concepts with our full breakdown of today's terminology.
We want to know, who are you in English? Use one of our new vocabulary words in the comments.
See you in the next episode of English Lab.
Bye.